Guys, you are listening to episode number 77 of Radiantly Aligned. And I'm coming to you after taking a week off because I actually took my middle daughter, my almost 13-year-old, to Nashville, Tennessee. We have never been, and one of her besties, actually her bestie, moved to Tennessee, and she said, "All I want for my 13th birthday is to visit my bestie." And I was like, you know what? Let's make this happen. And so we started planning and detailing and made it happen. And I'm so very happy that we did. It was so fun getting that one-on-one time with her and just letting her be silly and giggle. And we had the best time. I've never been in Nashville, so we got to really explore and just feel the energy that was there. So that's why I was off last week. And I'm coming to you fresh, bright-eyed today to talk about 5 things conscious people do that is different and why it actually changes everything. And I would say the number one thing that I did to start to really change my life is become a more conscious person. And what that means to me is be more intentional all around, more intentional with my body, more intentional with my time, my boundaries, my energy, being responsible with my energy, owning my energy, just starting to get rid and shed some of the victim mentality with things and really start to take ownership of my life. That's what it means to me to be a conscious person. So we're going to talk to you about what these kind of people do. And I posted in my stories today that game recognizes game. You know, conscious people, we can spot each other. We can hear each other. And even in podcasts, we're like, that girl owns her energy. We don't necessarily say, dang, that's a conscious person, but you can just feel it. You can feel their aura. You can feel their overall being, that they are someone who is intentional. They are someone who takes control of their life and they go deeper with things. They have this introspection. They have this understanding themselves. This self-awareness is up high on their priority list. And I think that's so important to have these kind of people around you. So let's talk about it. And I'm not going to talk about it in a woo-woo way necessarily, even though you know I love me some woo-woo stuff, or not in a superior way or above everybody else kind of way. This is in like a deeply human way to be a conscious person and what these people do, and maybe how you can grab onto some of these things. Because a conscious person isn't perfect. They're present, they're aware, they're intentional. There are patterns that I've noticed within myself, in people I admire, in mentors, and clients, that conscious people constantly and consistently practice. And I am definitely someone who notices patterns. Like, I can recognize patterns in people and in myself so very quickly. And it took me a long time to realize that that is actually a superpower of mine. And so this is something that I have noticed over the years and over time. And I really just sat down and journaled, what does it mean to be a conscious person and what do they do? So let's get into it and why it matters. Number one, I've noticed conscious people rest when rest is needed. They don't glamorize burnout. They don't treat exhaustion like a badge of honor. I'm so busy and I feel so tired. I only slept 1 hour last night. I'm like, girl, that doesn't sound like a badge of honor to me. That sounds like death, actually. They understand that rest isn't laziness. It's intelligence. When they're starting to be more familiar with themselves and with their own patterns, their unique patterns, and understand when their body is signaling that they need rest, they will take that. A conscious person notices when their body is feeling depleted, when their nervous system is tired, when their creativity starts to feel forced. They definitely can recognize things that feel forced. They can even notice it in other people. Here, let me see if I can get this light, because now I am recording on YouTube, so I got to figure out all this light situation. They start to notice when People and things and conversations feel completely forced. And instead of pushing harder, they actually pause, they reflect, they think, they adjust, and they don't go into this beating myself up situation. It's almost like being a scientist. It's like in a scientific way that they start to deconstruct and instruct things. I freaking love it. So why is this important? Because exhaustion will really distort your perception. When you're tired, you're more reactive. You're more insecure. You're more likely to say yes when you mean no. You're more likely to snap at the people that you love. Rest protects your clarity. You start to realize how important your sleep and overall rest is. I really started to understand the importance of my rest, not only nighttime, but my daytime restore time. That's where I had issues, is I was so go during the day that I didn't recognize how much that actually affects night. Like your daytime restoration affects your night. And I do understand that we have seasons in our life when we have to be in this constant go. But when you start to be more self-aware and a conscious person, you start to plug in certain areas in your day that you can restore, even if that looks like 5 deep breaths in your car in the pickup line. You know what I mean? You really start to think about, how can I protect my clarity? How can I regulate my nervous system? You start to go deeper. Rest keeps resentment from building as well. You don't get burnt out and then frustrated all the time because you're in a space of clarity and more rest. It allows you to show up more powerful instead of just performative and like robot I have to show up today. I can really spot those out now. And I can even spot them out in myself. I'm like, did I actually just post that because I was feeling it, feel that intuition hit? Or did I post that because I felt like I haven't posted in a while and I have to? So I'll call it out even in myself, even now. So it's just an ever-going and ongoing process with yourself. Conscious people know if you don't rest on purpose, your body is going to force you to rest. Have you ever noticed that when you're go and then you just start to feel sick all the time and you're not getting enough sleep, you're like, you get sick and you're forced to lay your ass down. And then you end up in the doctors taking up time that way. So it totally backfires on you. If you don't rest on purpose, your body will force you to rest. Conscious people know this. All right, let's go to number 2. Conscious people stay silent instead of react when silence serves better. This one I've always kind of done, but I was beating myself up a lot for not reacting so much, because there was a point where I was surrounded by people who were more confrontational, who were like, you should be upset, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I actually don't feel that way though. And then I think that something's wrong with me. But I think what I started to do was understand when silence is powerful, when a reaction is not needed in this moment, when I could actually stop and step back and process what just happened and then decide how I'm going to act accordingly. Of course, we're all human. I always say this. There's going to be moments, but I recognize that this is actually a superpower of mine. And I think people keep me around, like my friends can keep me around because I am that sense of calm in situations where they like want to rile themselves up. Like, this girl did this. Aren't you upset? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm actually okay. Like, it kind of takes a lot for me to be triggered by other people now. And I will take that as growing and being a conscious person. It also helps that my husband is a police officer and they're basically trained to not react in certain situations. So I do think that he's rubbed off on me in that way too, where I'm like talking on the phone and I think something's a big deal and then I tell him and he's like, okay, and now what? Like, and he's that sort of calm to me, and it puts perspective on, but there's also a balance there because I'm like, well, I'm human too, and I get to react and respond. So it's interesting. It's all an interesting game here. But conscious people understand that not every emotion requires expression right away. For example, road rage. I laugh, my kids laugh too at this now because they're starting to understand. They're like, you don't really get road rage like so and so, like grandma or whoever. And I'm like, yeah, you know what's going through my head? If somebody like cuts me off or goes really fast around me, or I don't know, like somebody does something on the road, I instantly just go to, damn, they must have to poop. They are going so fast. They're trying to find that exit to go poop. Like, that is just my thought process. Like, I don't assume that everybody's out to get me. I don't know. I just don't. And I think that's natural for me. I don't know if that's something that I learned over time, but that's just one example of like, not everything requires me to get worked up, And I think that me telling my daughter that now, she's like, I can see that. Like, I don't need to get all frustrated in the car driving all the time. So anyway, take that one on. If you feel like you've been raging, just assume they got to go poop. That's my advice for the day. So conscious people will pause. They take a breath. They ask, is this worth my energy? They really start to protect their energy. Is this a moment to speak? Or is this a moment to observe? I am constantly asking myself that. Is this a moment that requires my full, undivided energy and like emotions on high? Or is this a moment that I get to step back and observe what's happening and then choose how I'm going to respond? Now, a downfall in this, I would say, is sometimes I did a ChatGPT thing because and I was like, what are some of the shadows that you see? Or like, what are some of the things that potentially could be a problem in my life that you notice? And ChatGPT said, you sometimes don't allow yourself to just be human and feel in the moment and express your emotions in the moment. And so I am getting better at that. Like, if I do sense anger, the thing is, I may step away and like rage for a sec, and then I'm usually pretty quick to get it back to like a baseline. And that is something that requires time and practice. And I'm not perfect all of the time, but I really do try to step back and think, is this worth my energy? Is this worth my time? Is this a moment to speak, or is this a moment that I can observe? And it helps me actually with little contentious moments with my husband, even where I'm like, those moments where you want to say it all so fast in a marriage and you're like, but I'm right, that kind of thing. I really have learned to step back, observe, and like active listen. Okay, what is he actually trying to say? And I think he does that too. And that's something that we really have grown together with. So that's just a little side note. And actually really huge. A game changer if you start to take that on. Is this a moment to speak or a moment to observe? Silence is powerful. Just because I'm not reacting in a certain way doesn't mean I don't care. It could mean that I'm processing and deciding how my energy is going to move forward. Because when you react instantly, you're usually operating from fear, from ego, maybe even old wounds, some triggers, or like this need to be right. And so conscious people are really conscious about that. When you pause, you give wisdom a chance to enter. When you pause, you give wisdom a chance to enter. And I think I heard this from Mel Robbins, maybe? Shoot, I don't remember. I think she was interviewing somebody and she was like, well, what do we do if somebody is intentionally trying to hurt you with their words, like in front of you, face to face, and they say like a jab, they kind of jab at you? And the person said, you pause. You pause. Pause is powerful. Instead of jump and react right away, if you create that space, that kind of makes them think a little bit. And I've actually used this recently where I could feel this little jab from somebody. I paused and I said, I was like, that was a weird thing to say. And it totally de-escalated what was happening. They're like, no, I like didn't mean it that way. Backtracking a little bit. And I thought, now I get it. That totally works to try to de-escalate so that you're not getting triggered and all fired up in situations. You pause. You create that space. And that's where wisdom can come in. And here's the deeper truth. Sometimes silence will protect you, protects your peace, and reveals who someone really is. I'm not saying that you have to let people beat you up all the time, but I'm just saying create the space and understand what is worth your energy and your time. Being conscious doesn't mean being passive. It means being intentional. It means being intentional with your time, with your energy, with your mind, with your body. All right, let's move to number 3. I got a little excited right there talking about this. I love it. Conscious people treat ordinary moments as sacred. Can I get an amen for this? This is honestly my favorite one because conscious people don't wait for vacations to start to feel alive. We don't wait. Well, when I go to that place, then I can be happy. Conscious people understand and notice the beauty in things today. Notice the beauty in everyday life, in ordinary life. We notice the way that the light hits on the kitchen counter, how vibrant the flowers are, the sound of my child's laugh, the warmth of a warm drink in my hand, the quiet between the conversations, the sun hitting the face. You understand that ordinary moments are sacred and beautiful. You understand that life isn't just made of milestones. Climb this mountain, then the next, check, 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 check. You understand that it's made of micro moments, micro beautiful moments. And when you rush through the ordinary, you start to miss your life. And why is this important? Because presence creates fulfillment. Not success, not applause, not validation. Presence will create fulfillment. When you can sit on an average Tuesday afternoon and feel grateful, how beautiful, how conscious of you. Conscious people don't postpone aliveness. I mentioned this in my stories the other day too. Actually, I think I posted this on YouTube as a short. You don't postpone aliveness. You don't wait for the vacation. Vacations are nice, but you don't wait for that to feel happy and alive. You start to do things now that are aligned with you that make you feel alive. You see the beauty in the ordinary. All right, let's move to number 4. Conscious people take radical responsibility for their energy. Oh my gosh, there are so many people that don't do this. And it's frustrating, but it also, I'm like, they're just not ready yet. They're just not ready yet. It's okay. They're on their own journey. But conscious people don't blame everyone else for how they feel. I know that's tough to hear. They notice their own triggers, and instead of saying, that person made me feel this way, they ask, why did that activate me so much? Why'd that get me fired up? What's the belief underneath this reaction? And if you're someone raising your hand because you do that, you get it. I will step back constantly that's weird. That made me have this physical reaction, a trigger because this person said this thing. Interesting. And then I go into my little detective scientific mode and I want to decode and deconstruct and that's just how my brain works. And I live there and I love it. And I think that it's so powerful to step back and do that, to understand yourself and take responsibility for your energy and not consistently blame other people. And because somebody with the same exact circumstance as you can have a completely different reaction. There's always this example of like a farmer with rain is like, oh my gosh, thank you for the rain. Someone else on that same day that doesn't need the rain, quote unquote, is like, freaking A, why is it raining? It's ruining everything. Same situation, same circumstance, different energy, right? So this is maturity, really. It's easy to point fingers. It's harder to look inward. It's easy to say, I'm this way because of you. I'm this way because of this circumstance. It's harder to be like, this thing happened to me and that freaking sucks. And it's super hard and it doesn't make sense and it's not even fair. And what am I choosing to do? And here's why it matters. When you take responsibility for your energy, you stop being controlled by these external circumstances. You realize you can choose your own perspective. You can regulate your own nervous system. You can leave certain environments or people that drain you. You can do that. As hard as it is, you can shift the people around you. You can associate with people less that drain you. You can shift your state of being, and that's power. Conscious people crave power, and conscious people crave power over self, not power over people. So in other words, they're not trying to fix and control other people. They're recognizing that to change the world, it starts with themselves. It starts in their own home. And then it can branch out to other people when you're invited to. Especially if you're a projector, holler in the human design world. If you haven't dipped into human design, go ahead, geek out. I'm a projector, and so that means that I wait for the invitation from people that seek my advice. So if I were to just throw advice on somebody that doesn't want it or not in the headspace, for one, that's draining for me. For two, they cannot receive it. They just can't receive it. And I probably come off as someone who's like forcing. And that's not what I want. So when you take responsibility for your energy, you stop being controlled by external circumstances for sure. And you start to recognize that it starts from the inside and it can work its way out into the real world. All right, let's dip into the last one. Number 5, conscious people let go of the need for that external validation, the need to feel that. And that may surprise you because conscious people don't necessarily, and I kind of put this with confident people as well. You don't need to be the most impressive or the loudest in the room. You don't need that constant validation. You don't need to perform your worth. You're okay being who you are. That's what it means to be conscious. You're okay being weird. You're okay showing your quirky side. And you understand that not everybody's going to love it. You're not everybody's cup of tea, right? And ironically, this is the thing that makes you more magnetic to the people that need to hear it or be around your energy. That's the thing. When you start to own who you are, and again, it doesn't need to be loud. You don't need to be this crazy extrovert or anything. You can just be someone who owns you, who owns who you are. Because when you're not constantly trying to prove, you're more relaxed as a person. There's not this proving energy. I know you can feel when people have that, this need to prove. And you can feel somebody else that is just who they are and more authentic. When you're relaxed, you're authentic. When you're authentic, people feel safe around you. And again, the people that are supposed to be your people. Not everybody's supposed to be your people. That's a hard lesson to learn too. Conscious people understand that their value is intrinsic, not earned through achievement. Oof, that one's a little tough too, because we have been conditioned. The more you do, the more you do, the more you earn, the more you overachieve. That's when things will come back to you. That's when you get the claps. But conscious people understand that their value is like so their own thoughts and their unique perspective that they don't need to constantly prove and overachieve. And this frees them from constantly chasing, and instead being a magnet to things that are supposed to align. They create from overflow of gratitude and appreciation and understanding rather than desperation. Rather than that desperation. So in closing, let's recap a little bit. Conscious people rest when they need. They understand that the body is giving signals, and if their signal is saying, hey, you're depleted, they rest. They stay silent instead of reacting when silence serves better. They start to step back and understand, is this worth my energy and my time? They treat ordinary moments as precious, and they will sit in that gratitude a little bit longer. They take radical responsibility for their energy and just get out of the victim mentality. They address what has happened, circumstances that happen, and decide to move forward and stand up and rise. And then they let go of that need of constantly having to prove and have this external validation and really start to own who they are. None of this is flashy, but it's so powerful. Conscious living isn't loud, it's steady. We rock steady. It's choosing alignment over adrenaline, presence over performance, depth over drama. And the beautiful part, it's not a personality type. It's owning who you are and your personality, but it's also a practice. You can practice starting to take a breath. You can practice those pauses. Every single day is an opportunity to practice, my friends, and to become a little more aware, a little more intentional, a little more aligned, a little more grounded. And to me, that's what real growth looks like. So if this resonated with you, go ahead and share it with somebody. You can tag me in your stories and I'll repost it. And maybe for you today, rest is needed. Maybe for you today, it's your go. Like you are in the ovulation phase and you're like, let's go. And you have this energy and you're ready to go. Own it. Grab hold of your day. Understand your own energy. And go out into the world and share that with others. Pause before you react today. Take that breath and really start to be conscious of, does this deserve my energy? And you'll start to notice ordinary things that are so beautiful. And just so you know, you are beautiful, my friend. If nobody has told you that today, I just feel like some of us, like me, I love some words of affirmation. Obviously, I wrote a book. I love words. And sometimes it's just nice. You're your own cheerleader, but it's nice to hear, I'm proud of you. I see the work that you're putting in. I can tell that you really want to take control of your life, your well-being, your wellness, your mind. And you really want to make a difference in this world in such a positive way. And not only in the world, but in your home, in your kids' life. And that will start to shape the rest of their family tree. Like, it's so incredible how much power you have. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. And I'll talk to you next week. Bye.